Paul, it's a big win for your side, isn't it?
It is on the back of the defeats. We talked about trying to do everything possible to make sure that didn't continue and put an end to it, whether that was with a draw, but ideally with a victory. And the players, in fairness, have done that. Now, they're fully aware, you can see it in the faces. As staff, we're fully aware, and as manager, I'm aware that that was nowhere near the performance that we've had to date. It's the worst performance of the season by some distance. Yet the strange sport that we're in is we win the game, and ultimately that's what I wanted tonight. Because if not, I think kind of pressure builds, the negativity sort of flourishes, and yes, it wasn't the win, but this is where I try to be balanced in terms of my views on performance, accepting that we want to win games of football, we want to accumulate points to be high up the table, and that's why sometimes after games recently I've been relatively happy with a lot of what I've seen, albeit the outcome I haven't, whereas tonight it's kind of the opposite. So just pleased that the players have got that victory, and pleased for the fans as well, of course. But we want to try and marry the two up, but that certainly doesn't always happen. I said recently to him, you'll play a lot worse than this and win games, and that was the case tonight.
I think your side boasts one of the best first half records in the league at the minute. You must be pleased to go in at the break even after missing the penalty.
Yeah, well, when the penalty was missed, you start to think, is it another one of those nights? Are things again not quite going for us? Albeit, part of that is obviously on ourselves, because you get the opportunity now. Debate whether it's a good save, bad penalty, both. But even when he saved it, I thought the rebound was going straight to him, and then the next minute the defender must have got back and done great. I think we got a corner from that situation, but then went in front, and I guess I'm a little frustrated because I certainly don't think for 1 second it's a fitness issue, which is obviously something that people would often look at, and that with that sort of record I think, oh, they run out of legs, run out of steam. I don't think we looked like we had loads of energy tonight. I'd agree with that, but in general I think we know, we see stats, we see him in training, we know how hard we work, that won't be the factor. But when Donovan goes on and gets his second goal in, I think 2 minutes, like overall, we're obviously, I never think it's just done, because again, unfortunately, you've been involved in football for a long time and know what can happen, and we certainly didn't make it easy for ourselves with. I haven't seen it back, but he certainly looked a poor goal from the dugout in terms of how he's run through in the centre of the pitch. But the lads dug in. He won. It wasn't pretty. We know that. But what I would say is I thought they won quite a few headers and got blocks in and defended, put the bodies on the line, along with some good saves from Jay to make sure that it was a victory and get a valuable 3 points.
At the start of the second half, they put us under considerable pressure. I think they forced 4 or 5 corners in pretty quick succession. You changed your shape, brought Niall Maher back in. How do you think your side adapted to that change? I
think it helped us in some regards, but they were still, that had more of the ball and kind of pushed us back. I just thought it kind of helped us match up a little bit easier in terms of obviously just 2 versus 3 at both ends of the pitch in terms of the defenders and 2 attackers. Because before that, certainly first off, we'd had some trouble down, particularly our right hand side, with sort of Otis, Gavin and Toby getting caught with sort of Canavan, Gotson, Newby, that was an issue down that side. We spoke about it half time. We got a few clips up to try and address it. I thought they did better, in fairness, in that, but in terms of the overall play, I just felt we weren't getting close enough to people. So I changed it to try and help. Like I say, I'm not saying he didn't put us on top in the game. Probably helped us get the goal, in truth, by having 2 strikers up there. Might have been offside. I haven't seen it back. It was certainly looked kind of that would be a real possibility. Then their lad has a tug at him if he's not, but because he puts it in the goal, I guess. there's nothing to come of that. But like I said, I haven't seen it, but it wouldn't surprise me if Pete's got a grievance there. From my point of view, we feel like we've been on the wrong end of things at the minute, so we'll take it. But I could understand if that was the case, that he'd be upset with that.
Let's touch on Donovan. It's his second goal from the bench in as many games. Made 3 sub appearances in the league now.
Poor record that. Not scoring 3 out of 3.
For someone who's not played that much league football, he looks pretty sharp in his brief spells, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's what people maybe have to understand to a degree. It's very easy for people to call for him to start, and I understand that. There's an element of I'm looking at it, and that might come on Saturday. I'm Saturday now. I'm not sure. We certainly had a bit of a discussion, and I think the feeling was, if he starts 100%, that's one of your subs you're definitely making, and that's fine, because in general you're going to make some subs anyway. But how much he would get through, not quite sure. If he can just keep coming off the bench, I'm sure he'd like to start, but he'd probably take that goal record if that's what was going to happen most of the time. But yeah, he's a player that I think will leave tonight. Maybe not too many, but he will leave feeling good and confident, so that's pleasing. And I think for his teammates, whether it's starting, whether it's coming off the bench, they'll think he's going to get a goal. It's nice tonight. Raquel didn't manage to obviously get a goal, but for Danny to get on the score sheet and Donovan, it's always nice when your strikers are scoring goals. So pleased for both those.
In pre-season, you played 2 up top quite a lot. Are you looking forward to that prospect being one of them in your arsenal? Yeah,
I want that option. And again, so then it's what do you do behind that? Do you 4-4-2, diamond, or 3-5-2? They're the kind of options you have. If we go 3-5-2, then the good chance, certainly your wingers, unless you're absolute desperate and you play them as wing backs, then they might miss out. And his top goal scorer's been playing from the left, so not always simple. But nice to be able to think you can switch systems, which last year we did. Had quite a bit of success, I would say, in the main. I said this year I don't want to be chopping and changing all the time. It might be in game. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think that's something that has changed in general, and sometimes even the top teams, when they're on top, they change it, but it's maybe a little bit more subtle rather than an absolute obvious one like tonight with going the 2 up front. But with those 3 in particular that I mentioned before, it's certainly the option to go with 2 up front.